This is episode number 539 of the InnerFight podcast. Welcome back to another edition of the InnerFight podcast, folks, and thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks also to our show sponsors, Smith Street Paleo. As I always say, please do hop over to smithstreetpaleo.com. Check out all the good food over there. Get meal plans delivered to your home or office, or just take one of the recipes and cook it up. smithstreetpaleo.com is exactly where you need to be for that. Here we go then with another series. This series is called Getting Better at Stuff. Pretty broad. Stuff could be literally anything. In this first episode entitled Figuring It Out, I'm going to exactly help you guys to do that. Figure out exactly what you're going to get better at. And then in the second part of this series, we're going to figure out actually how to get better. This one's just a two-part series. If there are other series that you guys want us to address or other topics that you want us to address within a series, please do drop us an email, winning@innerfight.com. We'd absolutely love to hear from you, love to speak about topics that you guys want to hear about, and maybe even if you want to get a guest on or become a guest on the show to talk about a topic over a series. Remember, these are about 15-minute shows that play out over 2, 3, or 4 weeks. This one over 2 weeks. We'd love to, absolutely love to hear from you guys, but this is all about getting better at stuff. And the first step is figuring it out. And this is the most important thing. People know, and we say here at InnerFight that we want to help people get better at life. But the important thing is we've got to figure out what it is that you want to get better at. Because a lot of people, they're like, yeah, I want to get better at this, I want to get better at that, and we want to get better at loads of different things. I think a lot of the time people are quite negative on themselves. They're quite down on themselves when they say, oh, I'm not very good at this, I'm not very good at that, I've got so many things that I need to get better at. But the number one thing is when we're figuring it out, and this you could do over a number of different things that you want to improve at, is define how you measure what you're going to get better at. So if we give some real life examples, if you want to get better at a back squat, define how you measure that. And that's quite straightforward. We can measure it through the weight that we lift. If we currently lift 100 kilos, that's our starting benchmark. Some other things, we want to sleep better. How do you get better at sleeping? You got to figure out how you measure it. There's a lot of different devices. This is an interesting one. There's a lot of different devices that you can measure your sleep with. It'll tell you if you're having a good night's sleep. It'll tell you if you're not having a good night's sleep. Or you can go really old school and just score yourself out of 3. 3 being a really good sleep, 2 being not a very good sleep, meaning you get woken. Define it between 1 and 3 times, and a 1 is a terrible sleep where you're just literally awake all night. So you have to, at the outset of this, define how you're going to measure things. And every single thing, I really do believe, in life can be measured. How much you love someone can be measured by the activities that you do to show them your love. So everything can be measured. Yes, Marcus Smith was talking about how much you love people. I'm getting so emotional on the show these days, aren't I? The next thing that I want to share with you guys is we have to understand what better is to you guys. Everyone wants to get better. Yes, I'd love my back squat to be better. Yes, I'd love my sleep to be better. Okay, so what is better? Is a 5 kilo PR better for you? Is a 1 kilo PR better for you? We really need to drill that down. Is 5 good nights sleep out of 7 better? Or do you want 7 good nights sleep after 7? Like, do people sleep good every single night? I sleep pretty good most nights. So you have to really understand what better is, and at the same time, how much. And I think when you're defining how much better you want to get at something, you really need to then sort of start to think about different timelines on it. What's realistic? There's certain things, and I'm going to continue to roll on the theme of sleep and on the theme of the back squat. Like the back squat, even if you want to get 10 kilos better with your back squat, that might take you some time. So seek a little bit of professional help on things like that to understand the time frame that you're actually going to expect to get better. Because there's nothing worse than saying, yeah, I'm going to put 10 kilos on my back squat and I'm going to do it in 2 weeks. When if your back squat's super heavy at the moment anyway, and you know you've been training really, really well, it might not happen, and then we create this form like we're setting ourselves up for disappointment, setting ourselves up for failure. Same with your sleep as well. are there things that you can do straight away? So if you know that, let's say, for example, you know that a coffee late at night is affecting your sleep, well, maybe you could just give that up and you'll sleep better straight away. So the time frame for getting better at sleeping is actually massively different from the time frame of getting better at a back squat. However, if you're doing all of the things right before you go to sleep, you're decompressing from social media, you're not stressed out, you're not eating before you go to sleep, you're not drinking a lot of liquid, so you're not up in the night, so you're doing all of the good steps, but you're still not sleeping too well. It could take a little bit more time. So we really need to be quite realistic on those timelines. When we know how much better we want to get, we need to define. It could take sometimes, like a back squat, especially if you've been training, you're well conditioned, or you're doing strength and your strength numbers have been going up, to expect to put like 10 kilos on your back squat could take a long time. And we just need to, it just makes it psychologically a lot easier for us to digest and stay motivated around if we know how much time it's going to take to get better. Another thing, and you could say this is maybe something that you need to visit quite close at the start, is actually understanding why you want to get better. I think that's something that's super important. You need to understand your why. We hear a lot of people talk about, we need to understand our why because that's our underlying motivation. And it is like, and it's simple. Go back to squat and sleep. Like, I want to be stronger. Why do you want to get stronger? Why? So we sort of have to think about that, like, what's the benefit of getting stronger? And you have to almost sell yourself the why as well. We understand, like, when it comes to sleep, why do you want to sleep more? Because I'm waking up tired every morning. Like, that's a really solid why. And I'm not performing in certain areas of life, or I just don't feel super good in certain areas of life. But other goals, that why might be a bit deeper. You might have to do a little bit more digging, a little bit more thinking about it. And I think that's super important when it comes to fitness, really understanding that why, because that is going to be a key part of your motivation. It's going to be something that you're going to ask yourself over and over. And you can do those first few steps that I was talking about. You can drill it down. You can understand what you want to get better at. You can understand where you are at the moment. You can understand where you want to go to. But if you don't understand why you want to get there, then that daily motivation of, if it's a fitness goal of getting up every morning super early before everyone else, on doing things, missing out on certain things that people are doing because you've got that fitness goal you're working towards, those things will be harder to resist, and that motivation will be harder to maintain if you don't actually know why you want to do it. So they're really key parts of motivation. One thing that I see a lot is that lots of people think they want to get better at something, but that's only because someone else is better, and they can't handle other people being better than them at certain things. And I think this is something, and I want to talk about it a little bit here, is because I think that a lot of people's motivation for doing stuff is rightly and also wrongly born out of what they see in others. If you take someone who's like a natural runner, or who's naturally strong, or we say that they're naturally good at running, we say that they're naturally strong, it could be the fact that they've had exposure to those sports since they were very young. We could take a Russian weightlifter who's been weightlifting since they were very young, compared to someone who's just taken up CrossFit. And we're comparing ourselves because we're in the same gym, but actually the background is so different. So to sometimes, and we say this a lot, like sometimes it is good to compare yourself with others, but a lot of the time people will be coming from a very different start point, and they'll also be heading to a different destination. They'll have defined their better as something a lot different to you. And it's the same. I don't believe that people are naturally good at running. Yes, it might come a bit easier to them, but the people that are quite good at running, a lot of them have had exposure to it. Not everyone. Some people do get more into it later in life and become very good, but a lot of them have a lot more exposure to it in earlier years. So to peg ourselves against other people and say you want to get better at it because such and such is better, I think is not really the best way to go about it. Quick cough. That comes to another point that I've got, is that in that way, we're all different. So this is something, when you want to get better at stuff, you've got to really get personal. And these questions that I've been asking you during this show is not something that I can answer for you. I can help you to answer, and I hope that from this show, you're getting a few ideas of what questions you should be asking yourself and maybe how it should all be boiling down. But generally, we're all different. Our progression levels are going to be a little bit different. Our lifestyles are going to be a little bit different as well. So no one can say, I can put someone exactly the same on exactly the same squat program, for example, but their reaction is going to be totally different. It's going to be different based on how much they're sleeping. It's going to be different based on their diet. It's going to be different based on their stress levels. It's going to be different based on so many different things, the response that we actually get from that squat cycle. Even though they're all starting at the same point and they all want to get to the same point, different bodies are going to react in a different way. So I think that's something that is really important. But when you're setting out for anything, for any goal in life, the first step is the title of this show. The first step is all about figuring it out. You have to really spend time. We see people a lot jump into different goals or set different goals for themselves, put really brutal measures on themselves, which I'm all for. Like, there should be some stringent measures in place, but I think we can spend a lot more time in this planning phase, in the figure out phase, and just really break things down and understand it a lot more. That way our motivation will creep massively, or jump. It won't just creep up, it'll jump a lot higher. We'll really understand the process. We'll, as I said there, we'll dig down into our why, and we'll really understand our why, and therefore when we go to do the activities that we have to do, let's go back to the sleep one. You're going to have to stop socializing maybe. You're going to have to stop going out for dinner late at night with friends, something that you've loved to do. And when I ask you to stop doing that, it will become easier if you've spent time in this figuring out phase. So there's the things that I've got to share with you in this episode 1 of the Getting Better at Stuff series. There is another series, as I said earlier, folks. These shorts, get my tongue in a real twist here. These shows are nice and short and punchy, and hopefully you can just figure out some notes and take some real actionable things away from it. Next week's show number 541, is the actual getting better phase of this. So what you need to be doing and some thoughts on that. But hopefully that's useful to you guys. Tune in next week for the second episode in this 2-part series. Thanks a lot for listening. Catch you next time.